I did not feel broken in America. I only realized how tense I was after I stopped feeling it here. That sentence took shape slowly, not all at once, like truth often does when it's been buried under years of normalized survival. In the US, I was functioning exactly how life required. I woke up alert, muscles already tight before my feet hit the floor. I moved fast through every errand, every commute, every interaction. I stayed aware of my surroundings, of who was behind me, of which streets felt safer, of how my presence might be perceived. I adapted constantly, reading rooms, adjusting my energy, calculating risk in situations that shouldn't require calculation. None of that felt wrong at the time. It felt responsible. It felt like what any aware person does. Living in Australia did not suddenly make life perfect or erase every challenge. It removed pressure so quietly that I did not notice it leaving, like how you don't realize you've been holding your breath until you finally exhale. One day, maybe 3 months in, I realized my body was not bracing itself in public anymore. My shoulders had dropped. My jaw had unclenched. My mind was not scanning for problems that might never come. I was present without effort, without strategy, without the exhausting mental mathematics of existing. That moment forced a realization I had avoided for years, maybe my whole life. I was not surviving anymore. I was actually existing. And the difference felt staggering. In America, I learned to manage myself constantly in ways I never named out loud. Tone, so I didn't sound threatening or too passive. Pace, so I seemed confident but not aggressive. Awareness, because letting your guard down felt naive, even dangerous. There was always something to anticipate, always another scenario to mentally rehearse. Even calm moments carried an edge because they felt temporary, like the pause before something demands your attention again. You learn not to sink into peace because you know it won't last. In Australia, calm felt stable, structural, woven into daily life rather than stolen from it. It did not disappear the moment I relaxed or let my mind wander. That changed how I moved through the day in ways I'm still discovering. I stopped rushing without planning to, stopped walking like I was late to everything. I stopped preparing responses before conversations even started, stopped running through defensive scripts in my head for conflicts that never came. That space, that absence of constant low-level threat, made me realize how much of my identity back home was shaped by pressure, not personality. Not trauma in the clinical sense. Pressure. The kind that never announces itself, never feels dramatic, but never leaves either. It becomes your baseline. You forget what you felt like before it settled into your bones. You forget that hypervigilance isn't a personality trait. It's an adaptation. And adaptations can be unlearned when the environment changes. That's what I didn't expect. That I could actually change. The most surprising change was internal, invisible to anyone watching but seismic to me. I reacted less to small disruptions, to changes in plans, to unexpected situations. I listened more instead of planning my next point while someone else was talking. My thoughts slowed down, became less frantic, less like a warning system constantly scanning for danger. Not because I chose mindfulness practices or morning routines or any self-improvement strategy. Because the environment allowed it. The space for it already existed. People did not escalate small issues into confrontations. A mistake at a coffee shop stayed a mistake, not a battle about respect or competence. Public life did not feel confrontational by default. Strangers made eye contact without it meaning something threatening. Silence did not feel dangerous or awkward or like something I needed to fill immediately. Over time, without deciding to, I stopped interpreting neutral behavior as potential threat. I stopped reading hostility into blank expressions. I stopped assuming the worst about intentions. That rewired how I related to people in ways I'm still processing. I trusted without effort, without needing to test people first or wait for them to prove themselves safe. I spoke without defense, without the armor I didn't know I was wearing. I felt human instead of strategic, instead of constantly calculating social risk. That shift was so gradual I almost missed it. But once I noticed, I couldn't unsee how much energy I'd spent just protecting myself from interactions that, most of the time, were never going to hurt me. The threat I was defending against was mostly in my head, but it felt completely real. Feeling human does not mean feeling happy all the time, or living in some peaceful bubble where problems don't exist. It means feeling natural inside your own body, like your nervous system finally matches your actual environment instead of some projected danger. In Australia, I stopped performing strength, stopped walking into rooms with my guard already up, stopped proving I could handle whatever came next. I stopped signaling awareness in that specific way that says, I'm alert, I see you, don't try anything. The invisible broadcast I didn't know I was transmitting. I stopped measuring myself against risk that wasn't actually there. I stopped doing threat assessments at grocery stores. That absence, that negative space where hypervigilance used to live, revealed how much effort I once spent just maintaining balance, just staying level, just not tipping into anxiety or exhaustion. It was like carrying a weight I'd held so long I forgot it wasn't part of my body. Here, balance existed before I tried to create it through control or vigilance or constant management. The stability was ambient, environmental, not something I had to generate from my own depleted reserves. That distinction mattered more than I expected. It's the difference between treading water and standing on solid ground. Both keep you alive, but only one lets you rest. Only one lets you look around and actually see where you are instead of just scanning for what might go wrong. I didn't realize how tired I was until I finally stopped having to try so hard. And that exhaustion wasn't dramatic. It was just the background hum of my entire adult life. I realized I had confused tension with responsibility for most of my life, maybe since childhood when I learned that being aware meant being safe. In America, tension feels necessary. Feels like the price of being a conscious person who understands how the world works. It feels like preparation, like the smart way to move through life. People who aren't tense seem naive, privileged, or dangerously unaware. In Australia, responsibility exists without constant alertness, without that vibrating frequency of anticipation. People trust systems to mostly work. They trust each other to mostly be decent. They trust that if something goes wrong, it will be handled without becoming a crisis. That trust lowers the emotional volume everywhere, in every interaction, every public space, every moment of uncertainty. It does not make people careless or stupid or unprepared. It makes them present, available to the moment they're actually in, rather than the dangerous moment they're imagining. That presence changed how I saw myself because I realized how much of my identity was just coping mechanisms I'd mistaken for personality. The hypervigilance I thought was intelligence. The defensiveness I thought was boundaries. The inability to relax I thought was work ethic. Strip those away and what's left? I wasn't sure at first. It felt destabilizing, like losing parts of myself I thought were essential. But slowly what emerged was simpler, quieter, more genuinely me. Not the version of me that had to survive, just me. The person I might have been if I'd never learned to be so afraid. I did not become softer in the way people warned me I might. Like Australia would make me naive or unable to handle real life again. I became clearer. More direct, more honest about what I actually felt instead of what I thought I should feel. When fear stopped driving my reactions, when that constant low-level threat finally dissolved, intention replaced it. Choice replaced reflex. I chose responses instead of defaulting to them, instead of reaching for the defensive patterns I'd built over decades. That clarity felt unfamiliar at first, almost uncomfortable, like speaking without an accent I didn't know I had. Then it felt grounding. It felt like coming home to myself. I stopped feeling like I had to earn peace through good behavior, through staying small, through managing everyone else's comfort, through being non-threatening or hyper-competent or whatever the situation required. Peace existed already. It was the default, not the reward. That inverted everything I understood about how life works. I'd been taught that peace was conditional, that safety was temporary, that you had to fight for every moment of calm. Here, calm was the starting point. Disruption was the exception. That taught my nervous system something new. That maybe the world isn't always hostile. Maybe my body doesn't always need to be ready for attack. Maybe I can exist without armor. That permission, that environmental permission to just be, changed something fundamental. I still carry the skills I learned, but now they're tools I choose, not chains I wear. Australia did not give me something new, some special quality or perspective I lacked before. It removed something old, something I'd carried so long I thought it was just who I was. The pressure I thought was normal, the baseline stress I believed everyone felt, the tension I thought meant strength, vigilance I confused with wisdom, anxiety I mistook for intelligence. Once those layers fell away slowly, not dramatically, what remained felt simple and human in a way I'd forgotten was possible. Not perfect, not problem-free, just human, just present. Just alive without the constant static of threat assessment running in the background of every moment. And once you experience that, once you feel what it's like to live without that weight, it is hard to forget what life felt like underneath all that noise. Hard to pretend that hypervigilance is normal. Hard to accept that constant tension is just the cost of being aware, because now I know it's not. Now I know that how I lived before wasn't wrong, but it wasn't the only way. Some people get to live without that weight from the beginning. Some of us have to travel to the other side of the world to discover it was never ours to carry. The grief of that realization mixing with the relief. Both can be true. I can be grateful for where I am and angry about what I lost to get here. Angry about the years spent braced against danger that never came. But mostly, I'm just here now. Finally here. Finally feeling what it's like to exist without fighting my own nervous system. And that's everything.